Hello and welcome to our cottage garden. We are doing another Q&A video. I thought it was really fun shooting the other one, so I wanted to continue with this. And we have a few questions that were left over from our last session, so we're gonna go ahead and get to those. But if you have any questions for me, my name is Anna Fable. I live here in the Northeast in growing zone 5A with my husband, Bert, and our little dog, Georgie. So if you have any questions for us in our cottage garden, please let me know down in the comments. Let's get going. My husband picked these out, and so I'm just going to be seeing them for the first time along with you. All right, so this is from the This Might Be Too Much video, and this was all back in May when we were, or maybe early June when we were planting up. So this one is, the joy you feel showing and describing your garden, your gorgeous garden is inspirational. Thank you. Makes me want to add more variety and get out of my comfort zone. You are like a kid in a candy store. Have you always loved gardening even as a child? Oh, thank you very much. Have I always loved gardening even as a child? No, to be honest. I always loved cottages and English gardens, but my parents weren't gardeners. Each of them, like my mom and my grandma and my nana, I have flowers associated with all of them, but I didn't grow up in a household where we gardened, you know, that wasn't really something. I had gardens in terms of like moving to places, moving into houses, kind of like typical suburban type neighborhoods, but that would have like gardens when we moved in, and kind of like very standard, really nice kind of gardens, but feels rude to say basic, but just more like a kind of standard landscaped space kind of thing. And so I didn't really have that experience of growing things like this. My dad would grow a lot of really spicy peppers and tomatoes and always hibiscus flowers. And my mom was always growing, she had always had lots of ferns, and she never grew sunflowers, but she just reminds me of a sunflower. She was a very sunny person. But no, I did not grow up gardening. I did love being outside though. I grew up in nature. I grew up always being in nature, always wanting to be in the trees, always very passionate about nature and being outside as a kid. So this next one is from our Midsummer Cottage Garden Tour, Northeast Zone 5A. And this one was from Care Harpies. Are the champagne hollyhocks growing in shade? I bought some seeds for next year and was wondering about placement. I mean, they want to be in sun, but that's pretty limited in terms of sun in our garden. You know, we live in a deciduous woodland, so we have to be really careful about where we place things. And I do love to sort of stretch the limits when it comes to the light conditions with things, because you'd be surprised at what can tolerate a little bit more if you just see what it likes, to see what it'll do. I went to a garden recently where the woman just had that very, you know, right plant, right place attitude, where she would just throw things in the ground, and it was such a cottagey garden, so beautiful. It was just like, if it doesn't work, it's coming, it dies, I don't plant it again, I try something else kind of thing. And her garden was really inspiring and beautiful. And it really kind of solidified that idea that, you know, try it. If it doesn't work, you learn something. That's the worst thing that can happen, is that you learn something, right? But yeah, the champagne hollyhocks, those are the really frilly, sort of soft apricot colored hollyhocks that I have. They're sort of like a creamy ivory apricot almost. And those ones are beautiful. And those are in a slightly shadier spot, but they get pockets of sun. And so it's probably all together around 6 hours. So it is getting that sort of full sun mark. But I would suggest planting your hollyhocks in as sunny of a place as you can. The funny thing is one of our the shadiest areas that we have our hollyhocks is the place where they're performing the best. So you never know. The next question is on the same video, and it's the Hulk Thailands. Hummingbird and flower. What kind of flower is it? Thank you. That was the Indian summer hollyhock. So it was really bright pink. It was actually sort of the same color as my dress, this fuchsia colored hollyhock. From the pictures and from the description on the seeds, it was supposed to be, it's an Eden Brothers seed packet, and it was supposed to be more of a, you know, pink mix. But that one it's very, very bright, but I like it a lot. Next one, and in that video, if you haven't seen it, the hummingbird just flew straight past us and straight past Bert and was like 2 feet from Bert, just eating the hollyhock, or having the nectar from the hollyhock, which was really sweet. This one was on the best perennials for the Northeast Gardens. Can anyone identify the variegated plants behind Anna at 1312? I don't know what was cracking at 1312, but the variegated plants that we have are ivory halo dogwoods. We have a sedum that's variegated. Let me see if I can find that. Do you hear those birds? They sound so nice. So those are the ivory halo dogwoods. The variegated plants behind me, 1312, are variegated dogwoods. Those are ivory halo dogwoods. They're so beautiful. Year-round interest, red twigs in the winter, very, very vibrant red twigs, gorgeous plant. Just one of my favorites. Ivory halo dogwood. This is on the same video. Love this video. I'm transitioning mostly veg growing to including flowers in the UK. What do you mean by the zones? Oh, cool. That's so exciting. Yeah, so transitioning from vegetables to adding some flowers in is such a fun process. I love that. We've been adding more flowers into our veggie patch, and it's so, so nice. And there's more pollinators over there and butterflies and things. So when we go over there, it's just so magical. So that's fun. I'd love to hear more about what you're doing and what you're planting. What do you mean by the gardening zone? So we have zones that are broken up here in the United States that help us to determine kind of what the climate is like. And so the zones are based on the average lowest temperature. And that's kind of how you can know whether you can plant certain things. So because the temperatures vary so much here in this country, we have areas that don't ever go below, the 50s. I lived in a place in Northern California and we never went under, I don't think it ever got below 45 that whole time we were there year round. And it never got above 60, 65 maybe 70 one day, 2 days. But yeah, very temperate. And so then there are areas where, it gets down to -40 here, so it can get incredibly cold here in certain areas. And so just to have a better understanding of what things can grow in certain areas, since that's such a huge gap, gardening zones were created in order to sort of help us understand that a little bit better. And so if you move to a new area, you can have a better understanding of what can grow there, in the sense that, this will be able to survive below your average -20 degree winters, things like that, measured in Fahrenheit, obviously. So where we are, growing zone 5A, is, we have monarch butterflies right now, and it is just so exciting to see them flying around, like dancing through the sky. So where we are is a zone 5A, and that means that we get down to our average low temperature in the winter is -20. And so it's our average lowest temperature. So taking all the lowest temperatures from each season and then taking an average of those. So it's not that on an average day in the wintertime, our low will be -20. It's just that the lowest in the season will typically be that. So that's sort of where you can feel safe to plant a plant. If a plant can survive a -20, it'll probably be safe in a zone 5A. But we have had winters where it's been -22 and things like that. You just have to play it by ear. But yeah, that's what that means. That's what the growing zones are all about. I didn't know any of that when I first started gardening. I was all kinds of confused. And I learned gardening, honestly, from a lot of British gardening books, because that was like my dream gardens were all British gardens and French gardens. So it was really, I didn't know any of those things from reading those books and learning from things like Gardener's World. It's a good question. Same video. I love your channel. I would love it so much if you did some basic videos: seed starting, potting up, watering, mulching, pruning, etc. Yeah, we should do that. We should do some just sort of basic things. Yeah, do that for sure. Thanks for your question. Okay, next one, same video. Mystery McCarthy. I like that. Hi from British Columbia, Canada. Thank you for sharing your favorite plant picks in your garden. I love ferns too because they seem so magical and whimsical. I'm growing sword ferns. Oh, I love those. Soft shield ferns and lady ferns. Very cool. That's where the fairies like to hide. What a cute comment. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Aren't they just magical? You said it perfectly, magical and whimsical. That is exactly what ferns are. They're special. They're just very, very special. I love them. Okay, next one. I just love your garden videos. I planted 3 Japanese painted ferns this year, and they are so beautiful. I hope they spread. Ooh. I also have some Camelot lavender foxgloves not far from the ferns. Oh, that is going to be gorgeous. That Camelot lavender is so, so nice. That's the one we have in the porch bed with the apricot. No, Dalmatian peach foxgloves. Oh, that's going to be beautiful. That is actually a good idea. Oh my gosh, that's what we should do. We should just scatter the seeds over in the fern, our little fern dell. That you've just given us such a good idea. We're going to go scatter those foxgloves. So here's a bunch of our wild foxgloves. This is the, not Gloxiniflora. Those are the really big ones. This is the soft yellow called Grandiflora. And here, I don't know if you'll be able to see what I'm about to show you. There we go. Don't do this at home because foxgloves are poisonous. But yeah, we take these and then break them apart when they've started to die back like that. And then just spread them all throughout the back. But you can hear that? You might not be able to hear it. Well, you can't hear it next to me because it's not gonna fall in leaves. Here. Can you hear that? But anyway, that's what we'll do. You've just given us such a good idea. Thank you. I love that. Cool. Beautiful. Now there are foxglove seeds all over. Okay. Do you grow your foxgloves from seed or do you just let them self-seed? My first year for foxgloves. Oh, exciting, fun. So we do both. We always start foxgloves and we always spread the foxglove seeds like I just said. If you grow them from seed, when do you start? I'm in a zone 6A. Oh, cool. So when does the thing you want to look at for those things is when is your last frost date? And then just sort of count back from there based on how long it's going to take. And the seed packet will usually say that. And for foxgloves, I planted everything basically in April this year, and everything has worked out pretty well. We haven't had a great year for certain things, but the garden in general is looking really happy. So that's good. But the foxgloves were a little bit not as showy this year as last year. I think that's just down to a weather thing though. So the Camelot mix foxgloves they should be annual foxgloves. So they should bloom the first year. And then we've actually had they're still perennials technically because they do bloom the second year for us. But with some foxgloves, like the Grandiflora or the Gloxiniflora foxgloves, which are a little bit tall, they're much taller actually than the Camelot mix. Those are biennials, like true biennials. And so you plant them the first year, they establish their roots, and then the second year they bloom. So we've found that we can really plant them most times of the year. And the next year they'll bloom if you get that type that blooms the second year. But you want to start them as early as possible. So if you get them in the ground in the spring, right after you plant out your annual foxgloves, that's a great time to do it. You can also, just go through and scatter the seeds and just scatter them in the areas that you want them to be. And then you can even go through and either push them into the soil or even gently walk over those parts of soil just so that they really sink in and start to grow in those spots where you want them, especially if you get a lot of rain like we do here. But that's a great question. Good luck with your foxgloves. I'm excited to have foxgloves and ferns. That'll be so magical. If your bird bath is made of concrete, you can simply turn the bowl over on the pedestal for the winter. And because it's not holding the water, it might not crack. Okay. Also, it'll look cute with snow piled on top of it, just like a giant mushroom. User VJ10B5UC4T, you're a genius. That's such a good idea. I love that idea. Thank you. So that's from our garden transformation where we showed sort of how everything was from when we first moved in. That was a lot of editing on that one. So I'm glad you liked it. Okay, this is our monthly maintenance in our cottage gardens. This was like mid-season maintenance. And the Armachillo asks, could you discuss in one of your videos your inspiration on choosing color palettes, shapes, and such? New gardener dreamer here. Sweet, I love that. The Armachillo, love your name too. Okay, I would love to make a video talking about color palettes and things like that. I want to do a series like that, sort of talking more about garden design, because that's something I'm really passionate about. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. I might have already filmed it. It might have already gone up. I don't know. I can't predict the future. But yeah, if it has gone up, then I will leave it up here. But if not, I will definitely make that because that's something that I've already started preparing in terms of coming up with the ideas that I want to share with you, any new gardeners, just to sort of help you get an idea of what do we do here? How do I start? How do I embark on a project like this? How do I start a new garden from scratch? I mean, sometimes when you don't have any parameters, like if you just have a rectangular backyard or you don't have any sort of restrictions, the funny thing is the hummingbird's right there. Hi, baby. But she's hungry, girl. Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit quiet so she stays. She's right behind you now on the hydrangeas right behind you. Gosh, this is distracting. She's so cute. She's eating all the impatiens all around. There are some back here if you want. A little smorgasbord back behind her. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So thinking about the structure of a garden before you really move in, I think or before you really, break soil is really helpful. That's not how we really did it. We had a lot of ideas and plans for it, but then once you get in the space, it's like that can kind of change things. So I have a lot of suggestions for how I would do things. A big part of it is observation, just being present with your garden, seeing where the light is and seeing what can be planted there. Beth Chatto talks a lot about right plant, right place. That was her whole theory, and she's such an inspiring garden designer and plantswoman and just a really inspiring person all around. And so that would be a fun one to look up, just to sort of see like what things want and that idea and that philosophy of right plant, right place, and how you can use that in your garden space, because that is, that can cross all genres of gardens and areas in the world, is just sort of observing, seeing what grows in what area, and then just following that. And you can test things and say, can you handle a little bit more shade? Can you handle a little bit more sun? Sometimes it will surprise you what things can do and where they will grow. But yes, absolutely, I will make a video like that. I could ramble on about this for a long time, but absolutely, yes, I can do that for sure. Okay, the next question comes from the video Cottage Garden Tour, and this was in July, early July, I think. Hi, and I live in Schenectady, New York. Planting Zone 5. Is planting the blue salvia an annual or perennial for me? That will be an annual for you. It is based on a perennial salvia, though, which you could plant. I think it's called Blue Spire's salvia, which is a perennial. Okay, so we've had to switch cameras here, so your perspective might be a little different. But this next question is from Francine, and this is on the Cottage Garden Tour again. Beautiful garden tour. Cottage gardens are my favorite. Me too. What was that at 3525? A butterfly, an orb, or shall I just imagine a lovely little garden fairy joining you on the tour? I don't know what that was. I think it was just a little fairy. Notes. Okay, this is on the Cottage Garden Tour summertime. This is from last year. Big Hobbit energy. Also Monty Don vibes, especially with the doggo. Fae magic. There's no question here. You just included this because you knew I would be so honored by it. That's a good one to end on. All right, that's it. Oh my gosh, the fact that you said that is that's so sweet. Thank you. Anyway, thank you so much for all your questions. If you have any more questions, please leave them below. I would love to get them. I have a list compiled and I'm slowly trying to get through them. So please feel free to leave any questions that you have down below and I'll get to them if you're interested in this sort of thing. And let me know what other videos you'd like for me to film. I want to create these videos in this channel to help you feel cozy, inspire you maybe to get outside. Maybe just if it's wintertime where you are, just to give you some hope that summer will come, that it's on its way. Okay, sending you lots of love, and I'll see you again very soon. Like if you like, and subscribe to this channel if you're new. It really does help us out. And I'll see you again in the next one. Okay, bye.